Good morning. We are going to get right into it. We have an exclusive radio interview, and to get you set up with this and get you caught up with why we're doing this interview. Back in 2018, Seattle chef Edouardo Jordan was a national media darling after winning 2 prestigious James Beard Awards. The New York Times even dubbed his June Baby restaurant in the Ravenna neighborhood the best Southern restaurant in the entire country. He was riding high until everything changed in the summer of 2021 when the Seattle Times dropped a bombshell investigation. 15 women who had either worked for or worked with Jordan were accusing him of sexual misconduct and unwanted groping. A few days after that story broke, staff members quit en masse, and Jordan closed his restaurants, at least temporarily. 7 months later, and after posting an apology on Instagram, he reopened June Baby, but the lines that used to snake out the door were no longer there. It has been 2 years since then, and today Eduardo is joining us in studio, and we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Just in the interest of full disclosure, I told you we are going to get deep, and we are. You said no holds barred on this interview, so we are going to get deep, but hopefully it will also result in something very positive. Some of these allegations, I read through all of them, and they were disturbing. They ranged from touching one employee on the crotch, giving unwanted kisses, or making sexual comments about their body parts. I read your apology on Instagram before it was taken down. Have you apologized personally to these women, or what have you done to make amends?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I had to do over this time period was stop and reflect on the impact that I had on so many people. The most important part of that reflection was connecting with the people that I impacted personally. I think everyone had a ideal or a thought of what I should be doing, and that was the public opinion. I needed to be extremely vocal publicly, but I felt the most important thing was connecting personally and privately. And I connected with everyone that I knew I impacted, and people also that I didn't know I impacted, because I think it was important to hear, listen, grow, and make amends, and that was the most important part.
You've reflected, so now I want to hear, during your reflection, what did you do wrong? Whether you didn't have HR in place, human resources, you didn't have systems, boundaries were crossed. I want to know what you, in your opinion, you did wrong.
There was a lot of things that I've done wrong in this restaurant industry. I think one of the first things, thinking about coming back here to Seattle from New York, spending time in New York, was I was trying to fit in. I tried to fit in with a whole slew of people who became my family. I never had that experience in New York where people were so connected together. I mean, we went on trips together. We went camping together. You know, we went fishing together. We cracked jokes. And everyone was family. And so as my name and recognition grew up, I think people had different expectations of me and who I should be to them. They wanted me to be the adult in the room, and I was still one of the kids in the room. And that's just that was the life of the restaurant industry. We worked hard, we partied hard, we played hard, and that was the gray areas that caused a lot of issues.
When you say partied hard, play hard, I want to talk about that. The partied hard and play hard on these vacations and all these going to these places, were some of the 15 that was in this whole deal, were any of them on those trips with you?
Yeah, we've all were family. Like, we traveled as the friends, we traveled as co-workers, we traveled as just connected groups. You know, it's a small restaurant industry, and everyone knows each other, everyone connected, and that's how we bonded. You know, we worked, 12, 13, 14 hours together some days, and then we ended up having beers at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And what some of my elders have always told me, and I have told me now, is like, nothing good happens after 12 a.m.
Okay, the only reason she's doing that is because he has said that very same thing.
It's real.
Yes. But I want to get back to, because we talked about how you made amends, and you said you didn't want to do it very publicly. Like I mentioned, there was an Instagram post. I mean, initially, I think you were in denial. I mean, you initially were like, wait, what? What are they saying? And then you came on with an Instagram post, and then the restaurant was shut down. and you said you did these things privately. But what does making amends look like when you are accused of some things that are pretty egregious?
Yeah, I mean, I never want to be defensive. I think over the last 2 years, I've been silenced, and I silenced, honestly, myself, because there was a whirlwind of trash that basically got dumped in my yard, and I'm now trying to like decipher through it. What is true? What is not true? What do I need reality checks on? What do I not remember? And that took time to decipher through and understand like what my shortcomings were and what the impact of my shortcomings were. I think anything and everything that I would have done and will do this day and moving forward will always be elevated just because of who I am. And so I needed to stop and say, hey, I need to be better. If I offended one person, I offended one person too many. And that's the reality of it. And so what making amends look like is having that real conversation with folks. I have folks who told me, that was water under the bridge and I had no problems with you. And, we all joked and played. I had other people like, yeah, I took offense to that. And that's one of the things now that I've like worked hard when I think about like how do I move forward, especially in my business. There's something that we implemented in the business called Brave Conversation, and it's a training where it teaches our employees to speak up in the moment and how to have these like uncomfortable conversations. Like, hey, that made me feel uncomfortable, and you nipping it in the bud right away, and you setting the groundwork to say, hey, this is where I want to be and who I am. During
this time, what courses or training have you gone through during this time?
Yeah, I've been through a lot of training myself. As a person of color, I never knew the importance of having a therapist. I've put many hours into therapy. I've also hired a life coach to help me help get that counseling and advice to get through. And from a business aspect, I did a whole auditing of my entire restaurant and my business, and started implementing all the necessary HR processes so that my team can feel comfortable, so that they are empowered, and that they have a voice, and something that we can also build on. So sexual harassment training, understanding what misconduct looks like, anonymous reporting is some of the things that we now have in our business.
I will point out that no criminal charges were ever filed. I don't believe any lawsuits were filed.
Correct.
Am I still correct on that?
Correct.
It's also notable that other high-profile people have been accused of similar misconduct, including Mario Batali of Food Network fame, or Blaine Wetzel of Willow's Inn, just to name a couple. These are famous chefs.
Yep.
Why do you think this is such a problem in the industry?
Well, I mean, it's, for a lack of better words, it's called flushing the toilet. And I think like the restaurant industry has always been chaotic. We've celebrated the celebrity chef. We celebrated the partying. We celebrated food and wine. And what that means is that everyone gets wild and enjoy food and have drinks and celebrate in your party. And so like you're setting up an industry to be kind of in that movement. I think the years of chaoticness just continue to flow down, and no one has made the correction. I think we have to hold a lot of people accountable when we talk about correcting the restaurant industry. It's not on the backs of one person or a celebrity chef. There's so many entities that need to be involved with correcting the restaurant industry. And it's not just the restaurant industry. This happens in all industries.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, because I'm looking at you, Eduardo, and we're within feet of each other, and I can tell that this is difficult for you to talk about. And I think I hear you kind of catching your voice, and this has had a very big impact on your business.
Yeah, business and my life. There's I got a 9-year-old son, and I'm going to have to tell him this story one day. I have friends that I lost. I have people who want to support me, and they can't because they don't want to be canceled. There's this canceling effect that has happened, that people have rushed to judgment. People haven't did their due diligence. And the consequences of this said allegation has been more severe with the punishment than what actually happened. And that's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow because, like, I don't know how to navigate. This is a tough city to navigate in.
There's been allegations. There have been no lawsuits. There have been no criminal charges. None of that over the last 2 years. And here you are today. Why didn't you just leave Seattle and go to another city and start over?
Well, I mean, I didn't leave Seattle, one, because of my little boy. I've seen so many young men grow up without a father figure, and I didn't want this this moment in my life, this chapter in my life, to change the way I raise my child. Second, putting my tail between my legs and running away and changing my name is the easy way out. I fell, and I wanted to get back up and show people who I really am.
And in this process of going forward with your restaurant, do you have what barriers do you have in place? Because there's somebody right now that's listening, and they're like, I want to go eat there.
Right.
But I want to feel safe about what I am going to support. What boundaries right now can you say, these are in place, my restaurant, this will never happen again?
Right on. Yeah, first of all, it was a self-check. That was the boundary. I needed to grow up. A lot of my issues were of past tense, and it came to light. And as I became more of a, I guess, quote unquote, famous chef or recognizable name in this city, I knew I needed to grow up. I needed to be more. I needed to be that adult in the room. I needed to be that mentor and that leader. And that has been my process. Every time I've made a mistake is learning from those mistakes and growing. That's one. Two, from a business standpoint, as I said, like, we did a full re-auditing of what we need to do from a business standpoint. And that was like stopping and reset. When I opened up my first restaurant, it was like a rocket ship. It was like I'm up in the air and I'm running. There was no slowing down. The hatch was still open. I'm mid-air trying to close the door. And I just never had time to reset and get regrounded. This moment of reckoning was a moment for me to get down to the ground, understand what I need to do, rebuild the foundation, and that's what we did. And I'm very proud about the programs that we have in place to make my team feel empowered, safe, have a voice. We can speak out on any issues, and it's an opportunity to now be an example for many other small businesses and restaurants in this city.
Two words that are so hard for some people are the words, I'm sorry. And I guess maybe because you haven't had a chance to do that publicly, or you chose not to do that publicly, we have this platform where obviously a lot of people are listening right now and they're trying to judge. Do I believe what you're saying? Some of these allegations, while they are allegations, they've not been proven in court, they would be disturbing.
Correct.
I would love for you to be able to share what's on your heart and what you want our listeners to know.
Yeah, I think when people see me on TV, they've, recognized my name, you start to lose the human side of who I am. Obviously, I am not perfect. That has been proven. And the reality is that I am human. I will never be perfect. I'm going to always strive to work for perfection, but I know I will never achieve perfection. With that said, anytime I impact someone negatively, I want to be accountable for that. And that's all that I have been doing, is being accountable. And if I wasn't accountable, if someone deemed that I wasn't accountable, I did my best to go back and have that accountability. I apologize personally. I apologize privately. And that was the most important aspect during those moments. And now I sit here and I apologize publicly, because that's very important for people to hear and know that I have done that, and I will continue to do that.
Can I say, June Baby is a restaurant that I pass by twice a day. I drive on 65th. I live minutes away. I've wanted to go eat there. Initially, I couldn't go because your lines were out the door.
Right.
Now I see that the lines aren't there. You've reopened, and I have been holding back because of some of these allegations. And I just want to say thank you. You are showing great courage. Many people wouldn't do what you're doing. And I will say that I will happily go and support your restaurant.
I appreciate that.
So I appreciate you saying that, Ursula. That was powerful. Going forward, Eduardo, is this really the first time you sat down with someone to talk?
Yeah.
Publicly?
Sorry, I'm getting emotional. Yeah, it's been a long road. Like I said, like I silenced myself. I felt like I haven't been able to share my story. I don't know, it's been tough just to be able to like navigate this city and show who I am. So yeah.
What? And so what? So why? What are you doing now? Like you come on here, you come to sit down, you're facing us, you're emotional. Easiest thing to do. You talked about you didn't want to leave because you wanted to stay here because of your 9-year-old son. You did talk about the fact that you're going to have to tell him about this story one day. You didn't leave, and now here you are. You're on the radio. You're facing the music. There's cameras in your face. There's pictures being taken of you. When was the decision for you to be made and said, you know what, I'm going to come on the Gee and Ursula show? What made you do that?
It was the moment when I realized like my team needed me more. I have an amazing team that's working for me, working side by side with me, dedicating time and energy. I'm trying to make sure that they have a living wage and are proud of what they do. And honestly, I'm tired of them having to answer questions or have to face the crowd. It's my responsibility that I face the crowd. Publicly and privately, and I'm always going to be a man about that, and I'm going to always step up when I need to step up, and that's just who I am. It's my nature. So, you know, it's been something that's been weighing on me heavy to just be there for my team, my family also.
Wow. Edouardo Jordan, chef for June Baby. Ursula, got
Thank
anything?
you. Well, I just thank you, and I again, it takes courage to be able to admit you were wrong, admit the mistakes. I'm sure that there are some people who are going to hear this and say, you know, thank you for that, and others are going to question, you know, sincerity. But I will just say, I feel that you are very sincere, and I do want to support you.
This is the Gee and Ursula show.